Hi. I don't know if you guys could see what is going on right now with my face. It's not even that bad compared to what it's been, but do you see the breakouts that I'm having right now and the utter redness? And I'm very hot. I I'm guessing that my night sweats are now turning to just hot flashes through the day. I don't really know, but this has nothing to do with, well, maybe some of the redness, but the breakout has nothing to do with it. And I woke up the other day with this dry patch right here. It was swollen. I thought I had gotten bit by a bug, but now it's just like really super. I don't know if you could tell, but let me see. Oops. Can you see like that spot? Like how is so close to me? I can't even. Everything's blurry. I have no idea. But it's pretty uncomfortable. It sucks. But what can you do? So, anyways, today, what are uterine fibroids? I'll be honest with you, I always thought I knew what they were, and I guess in the most like elementary sense of the definition I did, but I didn't know what they like really consisted of, what they really like meant, what they really like could do to you, and those kinds of things. Although you'd think I'd been able to know like a lot more, like have more personal experience with it, because when I was in my early 20s, Juan was a baby, so maybe I was like 23. My mother was suffering the way that I was suffering earlier this year. So bad that she had to go to the hospital twice, like taken in an ambulance twice because she was essentially bleeding to death. The same way that I was, I just, I thought I knew more than I did. So I thought today we would talk about what they really are and like, of course, like almost anything else that has to do with women, that is a diagnosis that's strictly for women. There isn't a lot known. The only thing that's really known with fibroids is it tends to run on the genetic side. So if your mother had them or if your sister had them, you are at higher risk of having fibroids yourself. So what exactly is a uterine fibroid? In the most like elementary sense, the way that I knew it to be, they are non-cancerous growths and or tumors that grow in and around your uterus. They are medically known as leiomyomas. I hope I said that right. Or even myomas. Myomas? Myomas? Something like that. But here's the good news. They are almost always not life-threatening, rarely ever cancerous. However, that doesn't mean that they cannot cause some true havoc. Now, fibroids can vary in size. They could be as tiny as like plant seeds. I don't think I have any to show you. But plant seeds are super tiny. Others can grow as large as grapefruits. I had more than one that was the size of a large grapefruit, is how they explained it to me. They can also grow in different parts of the uterus. Now, if you guys hear all of that like rattling and stuff going on, we are having some really bad thunderstorms here in the DFW today, and you might hear it. Hopefully I'll be able to get the sound out, but they can grow in different parts of the uterus, including inside the uterine wall, on the surface, or even hanging from the uterus like a stalk, kind of like a mushroom. They can grow in the walls of the uterus themselves. They can grow on the uterus, like the outside of the uterus. And your girl here had them all. I had every version of them. For most people, they'll never cause any symptoms even. Like you'll never even know you have them. Or at least any like serious symptoms. Because the symptoms can range from non-existent to pretty disruptive. It could be something just like very heavy menstrual bleeding, pelvic pain or pressure, frequent urination. It can cause painful sexual intercourse and even complications during pregnancy. It could even cause you to not be able to become pregnant. Just remember that everybody's experience with fibroids are unique. And just because I went through what I went through and your sister or your mom may have gone through the way that they did doesn't mean that you will. So the jury's still out on what causes fibroids because nobody has any idea. So how can fibroids be diagnosed? They're typically diagnosed through a pelvic exam or an ultrasound or MRI. As far as treatments, it depends on a few things like the size of your fibroids, what your symptoms may be, and whether or not you plan to have children. Options range from medications, and when I say medications, I use that word very lightly because the only real medications that you can use are different forms of birth control. Lupron is only going to temporarily shrink a fibroid, and it does that by reducing estrogen levels. Now, the birth control and IUD obviously cannot do anything for the fibroids really, but it can help minimize the menstrual bleeding, possibly alongside that, the pain that you're feeling. Now, for non-surgical procedures, uterine fibroid embolization is an option. I guess it's not really a non-surgical because it's still not, it's minimally invasive though. It means that they will go in and block blood flow to the fibroids, causing them to shrink and possibly fall off and die. An MRI guided focused ultrasound. Yeah, that's a complicated name. Basically, it uses high frequency ultrasound waves to destroy the fibroids without any incisions. So that's an option for people who may have smaller fibroids. Now, there are more invasive surgical procedures like a myomectomy. It will remove the fibroids while still leaving the uterus intact in the event that you still wish to have children. For people who have them inside the uterine walls, it's a little more complicated because if you have many and they're large within the uterine walls, they basically have to cut that fibroid out of the wall and then suture your uterus back together. And for somebody who has smaller ones, that may be a very reasonable option, but somebody who has bigger and multiple throughout the lining, it may not be a very realistic option. Now, the most invasive and sterilizing option is to get a complete hysterectomy. It'll completely remove the uterus, which will offer a permanent solution because none of these solutions are permanent. They are all hoping that they'll be long-term, but they are a temporary option, whereas a hysterectomy will offer you a permanent solution. However, you will be giving up your opportunity to become pregnant in your own body and birth your own child from your body. The long and short of it is that what you will need to do for you is going to depend on your symptoms, the sizes of your fibroids. If you still want to be able to have children, is going to be a big one for you. Now, in my personal experience, I found out I had fibroids in June of this year. Yeah, June of this year. July of this year? One of those. I started bleeding profusely in July 19th of 2024. And it did not stop. I bled every single day, all day, every day, and night. I woke up in puddles of blood. I would walk through my house and find clots on the floor. Like if I was Hansel and Gretel leaving a trail of breadcrumbs behind me, but they were blood clots. They ranged from, I would say, silver dollar size all the way to the size of my foot with no toes. Multiple a day, every single day. And they were literally falling out of my clothing. My iron levels dropped to very alarming rates. My blood levels dropped just as quickly and as alarmingly. I still wanted to have children. I do not have any children. I'm 43 years old. I do not have any. I've always wanted to have children, but I've never been able to successfully carry a child to term. So finding out I had fibroids wasn't that big of a deal for me because I kind of knew that I would have them with my family history. And the fact that my mother had to have a radical hysterectomy when she was, in her like mid 30s, I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen, but I never imagined that it would happen before I had the chance to have children. My quality of life suffered dramatically. Like I couldn't do many things. I had to decide if I was going to shower that day or go to the doctor. I couldn't do multiple things in a day. I was just too exhausted. Now, that is not from the fibroids themselves. That is from the iron deficient anemia that they caused. My ferritin level dropped all the way down to 4 at my lowest. My iron saturation percentage dropped 2%. My total blood count dropped to 6. I had to have multiple double blood transfusions. And one of them actually was a triple, and I had to have multiple double iron infusions to try to get my body to a state where I can function like a normal person. But that none of these things worked. In September, I had a histoscopy where essentially they went into my uterus surgically, did a biopsy. I also had a myomectomy, so they took out the biggest fibroids that I had that happened to be in the canal for them to be able to do what they needed to do. They had to remove them. And they told me that they were the largest large grapefruits that you can find size. And then I had an IUD inserted. And yet I continued to bleed. The hope was that inserting the IUD would cause the fibroids to lose blood supply and die off. But that didn't happen. I continued to bleed. And I couldn't work. I couldn't really do anything. Like, seriously, I know it sounds like a lot. I know it sounds like, come on, that's no big deal. But it was a big deal to me. I was in tremendous amount of pain. The clotting was causing a lot of issues for me. I still am afraid to remove the towels. Every single seat that I sit in my house and in my bed has a towel that I sit on because I was bleeding through my underwear and my pants every single day, multiple times a day. I was having to do laundry at least 2 loads every single day of just my clothing because I was bleeding through everything. And as embarrassing as it is, the smell was deadly. It seriously smelled like dead animals. Old period blood stinks, but blood clots, it really smells for real. Like I can't explain it to you, but it smells like a decaying body. So although I still wanted to have children very badly, I ultimately decided that my body made the choice for me, and I wasn't really going to have an option because the option that they gave me to cut the fibroids out of my uterus and sew it back together, basically, they told me was not a true option for me. Yes, they could do it, but I was running out of time in the year. And I was running out of time before my organs started getting permanent damage, because not having enough iron in your body and not having enough blood in your body can cause permanent organ damage. It can really cause some severe harm to you. And I had already met my deductible for the year, and this close to hitting my max out of pocket. So I did make the decision to get a total hysterectomy, which we did on December 4th of this year. And that is the permanent solution to no longer having fibroids. They also had to remove my left ovary because it was so cystic and there was a giant cyst on top. They told me that the cyst was bigger than my ovary and they couldn't remove it safely without causing severe damage to my ovary, so they had to remove it. I do have insulin resistant as well as inflammatory plus cystic. So I have 3 different versions of PCOS. And lucky me, removing your uterus completely does not cure PCOS. It does not cause the hormonal imbalances to suddenly correct itself, as evidenced by my hormonal outbreak. Although I am not having a period, I am still having the hormonal side effects that I've always had during my period. So essentially, this is my time of the month and I'm not bleeding, thank God. This is since having my total hysterectomy and giving up my opportunity to birth my own child from my own body, which was a very painful decision that I had to make. But I made it believing that it was the best decision that I could make, and the only decision that I could make if I wanted to continue to have an opportunity to grow up. I'm 43 years old, and you'd think that I already felt grown, but I don't. So if you or anybody that you know is having these, oh, by the way, frequent urination. I was one of those people who I was having to pee every no less than once an hour, sometimes more. I was one of those people where the moment that I felt the need to pee, you better get out of my way, because if I don't go this minute, I'm going to pee on myself. And I wasn't exaggerating. I wasn't doing it for effect. I wasn't doing it to be funny. I wasn't ignoring the signs. It just simply was that way. The minute that I felt, and my brother will tell you, and he always gets so mad that, why do you wait until the last minute? Why are you waiting until you're peeing your pants? Why couldn't you tell me earlier? Because, I would be pounding the door down like, you need to get out of the bathroom right now. I'm going to pee on myself. And he would be like, I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. And I didn't know that it was a symptom of fibroids. Now that I no longer have my uterus, which was filled with fibroids, pushing on my bladder, I'm no longer having that urge. I am probably emptying my bladder 2 or 3 times in a day. I'm no longer waking up in the middle of the night multiple times a night to pee. That is on its own a godsend. I'm coughing and sneezing, and I'm not peeing my pants. Yes, this is embarrassing. This is not something that I wanted to talk about, but you know what? Somebody's probably dealing with this, and you didn't know that it was because of something that could be corrected. I didn't know. I just thought I had a weak bladder. I thought I had a small bladder my whole life. Nobody ever told me that my problem could be corrected. I never knew. Never knew. When I went to go do my pre-op appointment with the specialist, she did a pelvic exam and told me that my pelvic muscles were incredibly strong. And I was like, she's like, I have no doubt that you will not have any issues, because they considered a bladder lift because it is something that a lot of people in my family have had to do. And I believed I would be one of those people as well. She was like, I don't believe you're going to need it. Your pelvic muscles are incredibly strong. And I think that with the removal of your very enlarged uterus, think of it like this: you might as well be 9.5 months, 10 months pregnant for the size of your uterus. And it sits on top of your bladder, and it shouldn't impede on your bladder, but it does when it's enlarged to this extent. So the likelihood of you needing something like that is, I really truly don't anticipate any issues. And I couldn't believe her. I couldn't believe her until after that happened. One day, it was like I think like 2 days after surgery, and me and my mom were sitting there talking. And suddenly it dawned on me that in the hospital, they told me that I could not go home from surgery until after I had eliminated my bladder on my own. And I told them, I think I might have to pee right now. But I was in so much pain and so afraid to move just in case I didn't have to pee yet. And it was just like, a want because I wanted to go home. So I was maybe tricking myself into believing that I could pee. And so they put this, like, it was like she told me it was like a sponge, but it had like a vacuum. And so it's like this big, and they put it in front of my urethra because I'm naked under the blanket besides the, hospital gown. But there's nothing. I have no underwear on. And they put the sponge, and she was like, in case you have to pee, don't worry about it. This will take care of that. And I said, okay. And from the moment I felt like I had to pee until I actually was able to call her and say, I know that I have to pee. And I was able to get out of bed, get to the bathroom, which was not in my room. The recovery room that they had me in did not have its own bathroom. We had to go down the hall. So it was like kind of a distance, right? And this is my first time I'm moving after surgery, and I'm still kind of high from anesthesia, to be honest with you. And I'm very weak, and I'm in pain and scared, very, very scared to pee. Because when I had my histoscopy back in September, which was only a couple months before, I remember after, I would say about maybe 2 days, every time I would pee, it would burn so incredibly bad. Like some of the most intense burning I've ever felt. And that's from the catheter that they put in. Your urethra is not used to being poked at and having something shoved inside for a lengthy amount of time. So I was afraid of that. And I was able to go to the bathroom. And from the moment that I first felt the urge to when I actually was able to urinate was about an hour. It was about an hour. But it didn't dawn on me right away. It didn't dawn on me until about 2 days after. And I'm sitting there talking to my mom, and suddenly it like smacked me in the face. And I said, Mom. And I started telling her, like, wait a minute. And then I started thinking back into the last 2 days, and I was like, I have not once felt the emergent need to pee. Yes, I felt like I have to pee. Like, a couple days after, I was still like feeling more urgency to pee and peeing a lot more than normal. Well, normal for me now, but not normal for me then. And they did tell me that that would be normal because, all of the IV fluids that they gave me, all of the fluid retention that I would be having, I would need to pee it out. And so I was like, I no longer have that problem. It's such a blessing. It's such a blessing to be able to say, I can hold it. Because I've never in my memory could hold it. And I'm 43. I'm not super old. Yes, I'm older, but I'm not super old to have incontinence issues. I had no idea that a swollen uterus from fibroids can do that to you. So if you suffer like I have, see if there's an option for you with your doctor. Please talk to your doctor and see if there's an option for you. Because I cannot even begin to describe the relief that I have knowing that I can cough and I can sneeze and I'm not going to pee myself. Wow. If you've never had that issue before, you count yourself blessed. But if you have, you understand what I'm talking about and you understand the relief that I feel right now. And truly, yes, it's a relief, 100%. But I really don't even believe that it's possible for this to continue. I really feel like I'm imagining it or I'm dreaming or, when I'm fully healed, that issue's going to come back. Because I really, really do not have any memory in my entire life of never having that issue. And now suddenly I don't have it. But I hope you guys are having a great week. I got to give you your digital legs. Please let me know how your week is going down in the comment section down below. You know that I just want to be there to support you in any way that I can, good, bad, and ugly. I really appreciate you all. You know what? For today's emoji, let's do a toilet. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.